I intend to further the critical revitalization process, as well as pursue the ongoing key reforms led by the Secretary General to make the General Assembly and the United Nations as a whole fit for purpose. But governments do not have a monopoly on good ideas. Listening and learning must transcend these walls. As we deliberate, we must meaningfully engage with our civil society partners, academics, the private sector, enabling researchers and practitioners to lend solutions that are rooted in facts, verified information, and science. Civil societies hold first-hand knowledge, which is critical to the identification and implementation of context-specific solutions. It is vital that we seize this opportunity to be inclusive, ensuring that civil society feels ownership over and belonging in multilateralism. We must also reach out actively to young people, engaging them in what we do so that when they sit in these seats, they could come with better plans and better ideas than we did. My door will always also be open to faith-based organizations. Many ideas of them do overlap with those of the United Nations. I am also reaching out to the private sector and key financial institutions. I intend to work closely with them, listen to their concerns and their ideas, and search for implementable solutions together with them. As COVID-19 restrictions are lifted, this will be the first year since the pandemic. However, due to the saddening pass away of a head of state respected by millions across the globe, the beginning of this high-level week might be affected by coinciding obligations of many leaders. I offer my sincere condolences to the people of the United Kingdom and the member states of the Commonwealth of Nations.
The media greatly influences society. They inform people about what is happening. It permeates people's lives by creating their own criteria and opinions. In this way, the media moves the masses, creating different social movements.
For over 60 years, the people of Ambazonia were deprived of such privileges. The privilege to enhance their own criteria and opinion. They have suffered cultural genocide for 6 long decades, but not in this age and not with undaunted ABC Amber News on board.
You must understand that wars are fought and won in the media. The speed of the revolution and Ambazonia's quest for freedom cannot be explained without highlighting the diligent use of the media.
Franco-Cameroon colonizers, among other strategic moves, weaponized the media against Ambazonia for so long, and they continue to do so even today. The question would be, how much do the oppressed people of Ambazonia need to counter the media rage.
Indeed. How much more is required to stop the genocide? The carnage in Ambazonia didn't start today. In 1961, 1972, 1984, and 1992, Ambazonians were slaughtered in huge numbers and help was not forthcoming. Why? Because the oppressor was the piper in the media.
The good news is we have what it takes to dictate the pace.
Right now, ABC Amber TV is taking advantage of the wonders of multimedia aggressively
to inform the misinformed and disinformed with Undaunted and other revolutionary programs bringing it to the news untold stories.
Most importantly, to win the media war by taking ABC Amber TV into every multimedia platform.
In a word, where the importance of storytelling can never be overemphasized, Ambazonians has to tell her own story, not the other way round.
And like we say it always, Ambazonia must narrate her story accurately. We can do this together, you know, right? You are just a click away. Visit our website at www.abcambertv.com, and the steps are quite simple.
With just a click on the website, you can become a club member with so many benefits.
You can also make a one-time donation, advertise and showcase your goods and services at the marketplace on the website.
That was easy, right? You're welcome on board.
And thank you for opting for the winning team.
All right, a very warm evening to you all. Sincerest apologies for coming a bit behind schedule. That is because of the great UN General Assembly that we have been following all through each session today. I mean, talking about the 77th UN General Assembly. All right, Undaunted will be with you briefly, and remember that today we'll also have Dr. Martin Mungwa with us, and so it's going to be a bumper-packed news today, so all you need to do is just to sit back. But before Undaunted comes, we have the Secretary General of the UN going to address us in a jiffy. Do well to stay with us.
I thank the Secretary General. Now, I would like, in keeping with established practice, to invite the attention of the General Assembly to document A/77/334. It contains a letter from the Secretary General addressed to the President of the General Assembly, in which he informs the Assembly of Member States in arrears in the payment of their financial contributions to the United Nations within the terms of Article 19 of the Charter. I'd like to remind delegates that under Article 19 of the Charter, quote, a member of the United Nations which is in arrears in the payment of its financial contributions to the organization shall have no vote in the General Assembly if the amount of its arrears equals to or exceeds the amount of the contributions due for it for the preceding 2 full years. The General Assembly may nevertheless permit such a member to vote if it is satisfied that the failure to pay is due to conditions beyond the control of the member, unquote. May I therefore take it that the General Assembly takes note of the information contained in the document A/77/334. It is so decided. I would now invite the General Assembly to turn to the appointment of the members of the Credentials Committee. Rule 28 of the Rules of Procedure provides that the General Assembly, at the beginning of each session, shall appoint, on the proposal of the President, a credentials committee consisting of 9 members. Accordingly, it is proposed that for the 77th session, the Credentials Committee should consist of the following member states: Angola, Austria, China, Guyana, Maldives, Russian Federation, United States of America, Uruguay, and Zambia. May I take it that these states that I've just mentioned are hereby appointed members of the Credential Committee? It is so decided. Delegates are reminded that credentials should be submitted to the Office of Legal Affairs. Additional details are available on the information note issued as A/INF/77/4/revision 1. The Assembly now turns its attention to document A/77-329, containing a letter dated 6th of September 2022 from the Chair of the Committee on Conferences addressed to the President of the General Assembly. Members are aware that pursuant to Section 1, Paragraph 7 of Assembly Resolution 40/243 of 18th of December 1985, no subsidiary organ of the General Assembly should be permitted to meet at United Nations headquarters during the main part of a regular session of the Assembly, unless explicitly authorized by the Assembly. In this connection, authorization is sought for the following entities: Committee on Relations with the Host Country, Independent Audit Advisory Committee, Committee on Non-Governmental Organizations, Conference on the Establishment of a Middle East Zone free of nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction, Executive Board of the United Nations Development Programme, of the United Nations Population Fund, and of the United Nations Office for Project Services, Committee on the exercise of the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people, Executive Board of the United Nations Entity for Gender Equality and the Empowerment of Women, and ad hoc working group of the whole of the regular process. May I take it that it is the wish of the General Assembly to authorize these organs to meet during the main part of the 77th session of the General Assembly, on the strict understanding that all such meetings would be allocated services, conference services, on an if available basis from within existing resources in such a way as to ensure that the work of the General Assembly and its main committees is not impeded. It is so decided. And lastly, before concluding, I would like to inform delegations that the General Committee will meet tomorrow morning, Wednesday, September 14th, 2022, at 10 o'clock a.m. in the General Assembly Hall to consider the memorandum of the Secretary General on the organization of the 77th session of the General Assembly, adoption of the agenda and allocation of items issued as A/BUR/77/1. The first plenary meeting of the General Assembly at this 77th session is now concluded. The meeting is adjourned.
Campaigns around the world. It is a WHO and UNICEF policy.
The material put and down at the house this. Then I arrive for inside the house. So they require I need to solve them.
Personally,
don't tumble the motor for down. Nigeria, so we don't put them for down. So this time for day, the one go time the way they know. No figure again. Then 2021, number 8 month, 4th day. Yes, I them that they stand for day where they know figure again.
Mana yang mak ni tayar? Kuat ni syok tayar.
Na waka. Ye. Apa?
Bagi kau tu kamu tu bela obi mi wa. Tirin. Kan you kau mak tayar.
Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. Another Tuesday with Ambazonians anticipating the liberation movement with Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Dr. Martin Mungwa. Coming today with an intense topic, the arrest of John Egyawa, arrest warrant signed and sent to the Armed Restoration Forces on the home front. I know you can't wait. The 77th session of the General Assembly opens on 13 September under the theme A Watershed Moment, Transformative Solutions to Interlocking Challenges. The theme stems from the recognition that the world is at a critical moment in the history of the United Nations due to complex and interconnected crises, including the COVID-19 pandemic, the war in Ukraine, humanitarian challenges of unprecedented nature, a tipping point in climate change, as well as growing concerns about threats to the global economy. It is therefore necessary to find and focus on joint solutions to these crises and building a more sustainable and resilient world for all and for the generations to come. Meanwhile, in less than 2 years of existence, the Colonial Northwest Regional Assembly, NWRA, is meeting for the 8th time. This time around, the Come Together has teamed evaluate progress in the Peace and Development Initiative, notably school reopening. Undaunted after observation is wondering who called for lockdown today, Tuesday, September 13th, 2022. This is a question yet to be figured out. Without wasting any further time, let's get on with the news of today, just after the prime headline.
These are the prime headlines for today, Tuesday, September 13th. I will start with the evaluation of peace and back to school, the focus of September session of Northwest Regional Assembly. Also today, we will be having State of Liberation Movement with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, F.ASCE. The focus is Dr. Mungwa orders the arrest of John Egiawan, arrest warrant signed and sent to the Ambazonia Restoration Forces at the home front. Also today, we're going to be looking at the story that says Bamenda denizens compelled to separatist lockdown. Also, Meme Divisional Officer orders the putting on of school uniforms. Alrighty, this is still Undaunted, and thank you for standing by. Before we started the news proper this evening, we introduced the Secretary General of the UN, that is Antonio Guterres, and we saw how he was addressing the session. Now, this is just to let you know that as the assembly progresses with these activities here on Undaunted, we'll definitely give you up-to-date information on all of the activities and all of the information that is necessary. But right about now, let's give you a few briefings from our Undaunted studio. Of course, it's no longer news that the 77th session of the UN Nations General Assembly, UNGA, is opened already today, and today is, of course, 13th September 2022, and it's starting at the UN headquarters in New York in the first in-person format since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, heads of states and governments from 193 member states will exchange statements in person in the General Assembly Hall, and the theme is a watershed moment, transformative solutions to interlocking challenges. High-level events will include the annual Sustainable Development Goals, that is the SDG moment, the Transforming Education Summit, the commemoration of the 30th anniversary of the adoption of the Declaration on the Human of Persons belonging to national or ethnic, religious, and linguistic minority. A high-level plenary to commemorate and promote the International Day for the Total Elimination of Nuclear Weapons, and several member states and partners side events, which also includes the WHO-sponsored events. Now, good evening once again, Ambazonians. This is where we'll begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. I am Onyi Okbala. And Steph Smart is here as always. Good evening, Steph.
Oh, good evening, Onyi. Good evening, fellow Ambazonians. The World Health Organization Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, as well as other World Health Organization officials, will take part in person and virtually in several of the events to advocate the importance of ensuring strong pandemic preparedness and response, as well as equitable access to vaccines and other COVID-19 tools in order to end the pandemic and to put the world back on the path towards achieving universal health coverage, UHC, and the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. Well, watch, listen, and follow the event on UN Web TV and find out more about the 77th session
of the UN General Assembly through its webpage. We'll move in with the news.
All right, so less than 2 years of existence, the Colonial Northwest Regional Assembly, NWRA, is meeting for the 8th time. This time around, that they came together and they have a team, and it says evaluate process and the peace and development initiative, notably school reopening. Now, the Colonial NWRA is an outcome of the so-called Majority National Dialogue of 2019. Considering the condition under which the Major National Dialogue was organized and coordinated, one should not expect anything much from an institution born from it.
Now, meeting today for the 8th time, what have been the fruits of the previous 7 times the Assembly have been sitting? All these numerous meetings are just to secure allowances for in-house slaves occupying the struggle, since they have had no impact so far. Meeting to evaluate peace and back to school, is that it? What have the Colonial Northwest Regional Assembly done so far towards achieving peace? What are their contributions in promoting effective school resumptions? Well, we cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. This quote of Franklin Roosevelt is part of the introductory phrases in the welcome speech of in-house slave Professor Fru Ngwamfo, President of the Colonial Northwest Regional Assembly.
We deploy the continuing retention of Honorable Royal Majesty Yakum Kelvin Tuvier, President House of Chiefs and in-house slave Vice President of the Assembly, in captivity for 9 months, 6 days, the President's audit.
Now, this September session, it marks the 8th session of the Colonial Northwest Regional Assembly, with focus to evaluate progress in the Peace and Development Initiative, notably school reopening. The in-house slave president saluted in his opening speech the growing enthusiasm in the population as a whole for actions towards school resumption across the region, like Momo Academic Awards in the confines of the Assembly last Saturday.
With facts and figures, Professor Fru Ngwafo showed the improvement in school enrollment this year as compared to last year. On the 5th day of school resumption last year, the enrollment was about 355,087 students and has improved to 41,660 this year. Our resolve is to reach the 80,000 mark and soon the pre-crisis level of over 220,000. Now, activities carried out by the Colonial Northwest Regional Assembly, captured by the in-house slave president, include subsidizing inclusive education this year, giving scholarship to hundreds needy students, awarded prizes to best performing students of the region, school books and bags to 2,000 internally displaced students in the region in respect of impartial territorial and sociological distribution. All these actions enumerated not be verified, as he gave no reference.
Professor Fru Ngwafo opined that the region has been victim of natural disaster, from wind that destroyed many public buildings in Nkor, landslide on the regional road to Fundong, floods in Widikom, with loss of lives and property. The region has therefore taken relief measures to help the bereaved and homeless, renovate destroyed secondary schools, and construction works on the Fundong regional road. Since the region did not foresee or forecast these disasters in its budget, we have stretched out to the Colonial Council Fund for a local development fake-up.
Now, everyone in the financial and planning committees, as well as the Commissioner for Economy, competent authorities, are urged to concert to draw up a disaster relief plan and budgetary precision to relieve affected population on record times. Our special status gives us hope, but also challenges which I am certain will not only overcome but prevail indeed, says the in-house state president. The September session that started Monday 12 will end today, Tuesday, September 13, 2022. All right, before we continue with the news, we had a Gab Ellison report yesterday that we couldn't give due to some technical hitches. Here is our report.
Professor Jordan Samba laments once again about the insensitivity of his government. I no longer speak of the Anglophone problem because everyone must see with their own eyes the lies and impostures of those who push the government to the madness of repression. It is necessary that people see with their own eyes the inability of the army to militarily reduce the cessation and the monstrous military losses so that they understand that they have taken the wrong road. Anglophones will never return to the unitary state, and it is completely useless to devote resources to this false project. With a vexing tone, he continues, "It must be noted, definitely and irreversibly, that the unitary state with the Anglophones is over in Cameroon. Pierre's government has had time to put in place a federal model that it controls, a bit like Putin controls Russia, which is a federation. Instead, he preferred to rely on his unitary state to maintain monopolistic control of resources at Etude Palace, making the situation worse. Now, what can we do? We find ourselves today in an infernal spiral, and we do not see very well how to get out of it. The elimination of the secessionist leaders did not yield any desired results, and the rebellion only deepened. Ike's arrest let the more bloodthirsty Field Marshal emerge. The elimination of this one gave way to no pity, even more bloodthirsty, and whose supposed neutralization gave way to more cunning, meaner, and more vicious leaders. It's a real barrel of damnators that will exhaust us to the bone. Anglophones came to Cameroon in 1961 with their state. Ahidjo suppressed this state to achieve national unity. It was a big mistake. That's not what had to be done. It was rather necessary to widen the federation so as to drown the Anglophone specificity in a generalized federalization. Each English-speaking federated state having its own autonomy, we no longer ran the risk of a generalized demand for autonomy from this entire community, which wasn't going to make any political sense anyway. But by abolishing the federal state, Ahidjo rather froze the Anglophone problem, and it was bound to appear sooner or later. And it is rather unfortunate that the Biya regime did not understand that the best way was precisely to federalize the country as Chief Mukete had requested. It must be clearly explained to Biya and his people that with their attachment to the unitary state, they will lose the Anglophones. There is no way to bring Anglophones back to Cameroon by keeping the word unitary in the constitution, because that word alone fuels the war. It signifies the absorption of the English-speaking community, and that is what is anthropologically impossible. And there is no possibility of winning this war by military means. It is therefore absolutely useless to sacrifice the blood of young soldiers, young amber boys, and the population in a war that can never be won. Will the colonial administration hearken to this voice? Will they understand that you cannot win an indigenous people in their homeland? That notwithstanding, the Amber War Draft Award 22 is an indication and confirmation that Ambazonia is not backing down any day soon. Gab Ellison reporting from Daunted, ABC Amber News.
Undaunted parading the streets of Bamenda from the Bamenda 1, 2, and 3 noticed that businesses were shut down, no commercial cabin circulation. In short, it was a ghost town. But who called for the ghost town today, Tuesday, September 13th, 2022? This is the question Undaunted Kernard couldn't answer. What is the reason advanced for the lockdown and the body that called this lockdown?
Now, the streets of Bamenda are today, Tuesday, September 13, 2022, deserted and shops are locked. Parading the streets, no commercial cab and even privately owned vehicles are anywhere to be found. When you go through all of the roads in Bamenda, you find out that they are completely shut down. Now, you find out from one corner of Bamenda to another, there are commercial motorbikes, probably few vehicles in circulation, and some roads and shops are opened as well. Now, transport agency and buses and other cars entering the region from La Republic to Cameroon are escorted by the colonial forces of law and order.
Prior to today, yesterday, that Monday, was the usual observed ghost towns in southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, instituted as a civil disobedience to the Yaoundé regime. Though Bamenda enters into a period of lockdown now since the resumption of the 2022-2023 academic year, neighboring localities like Bafut local government area and Batibo local government area have been observing lockdown now for more than a week. Before the resumption of the 2022-2023 school year, there was a call for a lockdown for schools, boycott from some Amber fighters, while some localities respected the school areas like Bamenda did not respect. In an attempt to force the lockdown through, vehicles and motorbikes were burnt in areas like Santa and Bafut. Adults had only gathered that this ghost town being observed will continue till Friday, September 16th, 2022.
All right, so just to show, we have a video for you. All right, for about 5 years now and counting, functional schools in southern Cameroon have been accommodating students and pupils without the official school uniforms, but with assorted wares. But for some few schools in colonial government residential areas, all other schools don't wear official school uniforms. It has been an acceptable new normal as a result of the armed conflict in southern Cameroon. Students don't want to be identified for fear of the unknown. If schools have been going on smoothly with students dressed assortedly, why is Colonial Divisional Officer Chamberlain Noor ordering the wearing of school uniforms now?
That's a good question. Meme's Colonial Divisional Officer Chamberlain Intu Ndong instructs departmental delegates of basic education, secondary education, as well as the heads of vocational schools to enforce the putting on of uniforms by students. In a later dated 5th September, the Colonial DO instructed these officials to refer to the heads of schools so that they only let in students in school uniforms. A grace period is granted from 5th to 20th September 2022, said the Colonial Administrative Authority, for whom this measure aims to avoid criminals in schools in the Meme Division. The Colonial DO does not, however, specify how the absence of school uniforms contributes to insecurity in schools.
All right, before we hand over the baton today to Mr. Tapadi King to officially welcome Dr. Mungwa, we have this report here that says coffin check to combat insecurity. We have it recorded by Gab Ellison. It says the Colonial Divisional Officer of ALO instructs coffin check to combat insecurity. Let's have that report. And with our report, we have come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories.
Evaluation of peace in back to school, the focus of September session of Northwest Regional Assembly. State of Liberation Movement with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, F.ASCE. The focus is Dr. Mungwa orders the arrest of John Egyanwa, arrest warrant signed and sent to the Armed Restoration Forces at home front.
Alright, today we also discussed Bamenda denizens compelled to separatist lockdown. Meme Divisional Officer orders the putting on of uniform schools. And that was it for tonight on Daunted. Now let's sit back for the State of Liberation Movement with Secretary Martin Mungwa, PhD, F.ASCE.
Good evening, fellow Ambazonians. Welcome to this second part of our program for tonight. It's exactly 9 p.m. Ambazonia time, and we are having the Secretary of State for Communication that has been following up very closely the UN General Assembly debut that started earlier on today. ABC Amba TV has been streaming it from its beginning to the home front, and we got some excerpts of it and on the social media. I'm sure you would have watched it. We're going to be following the session very closely, very closely, and we promise to bring you updates. I would like to make a very brief correction before transitioning into the office of the Secretary of State for Communications and IT. Actually, it was I wouldn't say a typo. It was an unfortunate mistake. We will be having the mandate, or should I say the arrest warrant of the thief Gyawan was agreed upon and ratified by the ANSC, those in charge of defense, and the Secretary of State for Communications and IT is responding, is the mouth of the government, and therefore when you hear Secretary Mungwa issues, he's doing that on behalf of Ambazonia, not as an individual. His name as Secretary of State for Communication represents an institution which every Ambazonian that is loyal to this government should be free to associate with that. So that is going to be one of the focus of our discussions today. Also made to understand that Secretary Mungwa will be, from his office, will be going down into some of the gimmicks of federation. There is an educative session. As always, he would like us to understand some things and the trick and the manipulation that is going on, or what the colonial government is enhancing via their proxies, either those in the diaspora and so on and so forth. There's a lot of things happening there. There's also the unfortunate shutdown of some territories or some LGAs within the national territory of Ambazonia. We understand the difficulties that there is to communicate information, sometimes timely, even to the villages, and owing to the fact that some of these armed men, I would say called terrorists, those Atanganji boys, are actually using the tactics of intimidation to ensure that our people suffer from their tyranny, the same tyranny that Mr. Bia has been giving to us. So we're hoping that the Secretary of State for Communications and IT will tackle on all of these issues, and we will definitely provide a solution. Without any waste of your time, I will be transitioning into the office of the Secretary of State for Communications and IT to talk to us. Good evening and welcome, Dr. Mo.
Good evening, good day, good evening, good morning, Ambazonians, wherever you are. I would like to, before I actually start talking about today's subject, the unacceptable face of the Federation with French Cameroon, I just want to dovetail on what Mr. Tar just mentioned earlier, and it has to do with John Egewan. Before I actually make the comment, I want everybody to understand John Egewan's rap sheet. So this is not somebody whom can claim that he has a clean record. So I'm just going to read something here to give you an elaborate detail about John Egewan's past, because this is somebody who sent out an audio not too long ago claiming that he left the interim government because of corruption. So let's go down memory lane and you will determine exactly who John Egewan is. So John Egewan, Mungwa, and Chris Anu can't give any comprehensive account of the over $273,000 of my trip to Boya money, over 100,000 federal marshals money, over 65,000 Momo marshals, and over 80,000 meant to rebuild former FMA factory. The prison break money, Hurricane, 135,000, they claim was a scam and have refused to reveal the Ambazonians, so the identity of the scammer. So this is all about Egewan. And no one knows how much Chris was paying, ABC, his dealings with Banqui, Paul Tasson. So anybody who thinks that Chris, not Chris, but in fact, both of them, Egewan is somebody who can stand here and talk about somebody being honorable, I think that is a very hard sell. But coming back to the substance, we all know that Chris Tucker, who's from Condengate, was released after having apologized to Paul Biya. So they've been going around trying to convince our fighters that the solution to our problem is federation. And in some cases where they have been unsuccessful, they have sent this butcher man from La Republique, Buba, to go and kill this fighter. So this is the plan they have at ground zero. Now, or at the home front. Coming to the audio that Egewan sent earlier, he is absolutely correct. There is no person in the name of Egewan at the home front, but there's somebody else. Let Ambazonians understand that John Egewan, or the so-called bishop, travels with a Nigerian passport and a Yoruba name. So he is not traveling as John Egewan. So if you are looking for somebody with that ID on him, you are mistaken. He travels as a Yoruba with a Nigerian passport. And I want to let him know that that information regarding his name and his passport is with the right people. We are not going to disclose it on television. So let John Egewan know. And I'm happy that after we send out this audio, he was very quick to respond. That means that he understands the gravity of the crime that he has committed against Ambazonia. So whether he's a fish or a mountain, we're going to scale him. So let him know that. And he can transform into anything, but we're still going to get him. So let this be known. Okay. 21 gun salute to all restoration forces. Today, I'm going to talk about the unacceptable face of federation with French Cameroon, fellow Ambazonians, and the international community. The indigents of southern Cameroon's Ambazonia have endured the bloodshed, repression, deceit, and inhumanity of the La République du Cameroon since 1961. The people of Ambazonia reached their limit of endurance on the 30th of November 2017 when Mr. Paul Biya declared to crush us militarily in 2 weeks. So he thought. Yaoundé has demonstrated, bragged, and admitted like an unrepentant sinner its efforts to annex the former Southern Cameroons in international forums. French Cameroon destroyed our Federation 1.0 on the 20th of May, 1972, and in that process violated Article 47 of the then Federal Constitution and several admissions to the UN General Assembly in 1961. The motivation of La République is threefold. 1, to destroy the regional autonomy of the Southern Cameroons in order to control us from Yaoundé. 2, to control all our mineral resources and actually share the revenue on a 50-by-50 basis with our colonial master, France. 3, to force our proud country to give up her Anglo-Saxon inheritance that our parents snatched from our colonial and trusteeship power, Great Britain, in exchange for French at gunpoint. These are indisputable facts on the record, backed by the actions, deeds, and omissions of France and her treaty apprentice, La République du Cameroon. Your interim government, led by Dr. Samuel Komisako and his cabinet, believe in restoring the sovereign and free statehood of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia, compliant with the United Nations Charter. Our country, Ambazonia, is 16,500 square miles. Before we can even start reclaiming more land area from the base of the mighty Atlantic Ocean. Our country is bigger than Denmark, Belgium, and more than 60 other member countries of the United Nations. Ambazonia, by land area, is the 131st largest out of 195 members of the United Nations. Fellow Ambazonians, I want you to understand basic facts and proceed on facts, not bad politics, because only the truth can save us. We are at this juncture because the United Nations enabled process in Resolution 1608 of 1961 to gain independence by joining La République du Cameroon in a federation of equals has completely failed. Then the leader of La République du Cameroon, Paul Biya, declared war on us in November 2017 from an airport in his country in response to our firm demands for administrative reforms, respect for our colonial heritage as a people, greater freedoms, free and fair elections, etc. The dictator sent tanks into our territory to brutalize us and deny by propaganda to the outside world. The reaction was unforgivable, and the consequences have been death and destruction of property, mostly captured on camera and satellite imagery. At this juncture, we have two things going for our people. The Ambazonian Restoration Forces are the spear of the nation, and your interim government champions diplomacy at international level. Ambazonia is part of the Western Hemisphere under the indisputable leadership of the United States of America. Your interim government, the governments of France and Cameroon, lobby the lawmakers in Washington, D.C. at all times. Yet, in the United States, bipartisan Senate Resolution 684, lawmakers in the U.S. examined our matter in the fairest manner possible and concluded by calling for a mediated dialogue to end the conflict. This is the only logical path to establish justice and peace. The interim government of Amazonia and its nationalist colleagues have been waiting for La République du Cameroon in Geneva for 2 years counting. Our aim is to resolve a sovereignty conflict in a failed federation once and for all times. We of Ambazonia seek no future conflicts in the Gulf of Guinea. Our objective is a peaceful coexistence with our neighbors and to pursue economic development in peace and harmony. The danger of re-federation with La République du Cameroon. It has come to our attention that La République du Cameroon is now attempting to create its own interim government of Ambazonia and to use it to fake a 10-state federation. Let me point out to our people that Ambazonia is not La République du Cameroon in many respects. Let us look at some of the key unbridgeable differences here. 1. Language. La République du Cameroon is French-speaking by colonial heritage and treaty with France. The La République president addresses English-speaking Commonwealth delegations in French. The army speaks French. All English language texts in the national currency have been deleted in recent years. La République does not represent the national and international personalities of Ambazonia. On the other hand, Ambazonia is officially English speaking and naturally part of the Commonwealth of Nations. The English language, a logical choice in view of our colonial heritage and the importance of the English language in science, engineering, and technology, all of which we must master to build our country. 2. Neocolonialism. Under the December 26, 1959 treaty executed between President Charles de Gaulle of France and President Ahmadou Ahidjo for La République du Cameroon, La République ceded her sovereignty in decision-making on matters of culture, society, education, curriculum, politics, and the economy to France. Furthermore, in an annex to the dreadful treaty in November 1961, La République du Cameroon ceded to the ambassador of France in Yaoundé the right to order foreign troops into the country when their president is unavailable to serve. So in La République du Cameroon Parliament, the Senate and the Cabinet are rated less than the ambassador of France. On the other hand, we in Ambazonia believe in a parliamentary democracy and had the first elections in late 1953. These elections led the colonial secretary of the British administration, Oliver Littleton, to pick Dr. Emil Endele to form a government in Boya in 1954. We also believe in a judiciary that is free of the executive. In La République du Cameroon, the president is the chief magistrate and the chief is determined on cell phones and not by the trial of facts in the courtroom. And 3, economy. This is the heart of the matter. We are mandated to trade as an independent country and to use the profit to improve our society. In La République du Cameroon, the revenue arising from all exports, be it minerals, petroleum, cocoa, coffee, millet, or whatsoever, is shared 50-50 with France, according to the 1959 treaty. Further evidence is in a 2011 World Bank report on oil revenues. The World Bank said 54% of all oil revenues was looted. As you see, fellow Ambazonians, the actual amount looted is 4% by La République du Cameroon politicians. France pocketed 50%. This amounts to trillions of CFA per year or billions of dollars. It is simply sickening to imagine that France loots money from a poor country lacking in every arena of development and where cholera is rampant. Ambazonia, under your interim government, wants nothing but complete restoration of our 1961 independence and to leave La République to continue sleeping with France. La République du Cameroon are a separate people and we respect their decisions. The limit of the endurance of the people of Southern Cameroon was reached on December 30th, 2017, when dictator Paul Biya declared war on us. Not surprisingly, there has been no mass uprising in Mr. Biya's country to end this bloodshed. Our losses in Ambazonia are incalculable. Our people say the first fool is not a fool. The second fool is worse than a goat. We of Ambazonia are lions. Long live the Ambazonian people. Short live the revolution. Over to you, Paddy.
That was an amazing and extensive expose there, Dr. Mungwa. But perhaps I'd like to take you right back to the issue that was a caption of our discussion. We earlier on sent a caption saying that Dr. Mungwa orders the arrest of John Egawan. You have touched on it sparingly. Perhaps you may want us to get deeper to that. And I think the ANSC has extend concerns with that caption. They thought it should be ANSC orders the arrest of Egawan, which I think they are correct. That notwithstanding, Egawan is supposed to be arrested if he is actually in the home front. It is alleged that he has been spotted in the home front with a bush hunter, and their mission is to attempt to convince our people. Dr. Mungwa, I want to ask you this very direct question as per this intelligence information. Is it based on information from those on the ground, and have you been able to verify some of the evidence associated to this information that's coming on from home front?
Thank you, Paddy. That is a very valid question. I think one of the signals that I think I will be so happy to talk about is actually the response that Egewan gave. You remember that everything that's been said about Egewan, never has he actually come back to say something. And today, within a couple of hours, we had an audio sent by Egewan stating that the so-called John Egewan is nowhere to be found at the home front and he's somewhere else. In fact, that was a great consolation to us, because what we did not disclose in that audio is that John Egewan using an alias. He doesn't go to La Republique or to Ambazonia as John Egewan, because of course, if they find that, of course, people are gonna lay hands on him. He goes with a Yoruba name. He has a Nigerian passport. And that's why he was so happy to come out and tell us that, oh, if you find John Egewan, kill him. Yeah, of course. We know that. That's not the identity that John Egewan is using. We have known this fact about John Egewan, that he actually carries multiple passports for quite a while. And I'm not surprised that he was so bold to come out and send out that audio. As I said earlier, whether he's a fish in water or a mountain, we're going to scale him. So that's the message I have for John Egewan. And we know his association with Chris Tucker. This is one of the inmates in Condolences who has partnered with John Egewan to convince our fighters that the best route for this revolution is to go for a 10-state federation. Of course, our soldiers are not that stupid. But in the unfortunate situation where they actually locate these fighters, that's the job of Buba, the butcher, to go and kill them. And the intent is to force them to change their opinions. We are so happy that today our forces are far more educated than what they think. This is no longer 1961. Okay, it's not even 2017. We're 5 years away from 2017. And therefore, people are far more knowledgeable about the facts on the ground. And we are so happy that ABC is doing a fantastic job to educate the people. And people are very, very alert. They are listening to every piece of information that comes out of ABC, because they know that's the authentic voice of our people. And I would also like to take this occasion to appeal to the ARFs that they really have to start managing their acts and make sure that the population is well treated and well managed, because there is a secret partnership between the ARFs and the public. Because without the public on our side, this revolution would not have come this far. And we have to maintain that relationship. And even if I have to go talk about the situation in Bamenda, where there is some amount of ghost town, people have to understand the intent of La Republique is to make sure that people turn against the interim government. But remember, we are guerrilla fighters. So the people already know. And if they are retreating to their homes, it's not because they hate the interim government. They just want to stay safe. And I'm not against it. They have to stay safe. Okay? Because of what happened in Mayoka last week or so, where the military went out and attacked this bus and killed people. So people are just being cautious. And I can imagine that we have to be smart, street smart as well. So let people know that the fact that you have some element of ghost town in some of parts of Bamenda and elsewhere, it does not mean that the people are against the ARFs or against the interim government. Let La Republique not think that by going around in Bamenda, in fact, the military junta, they're all over Bamenda trying to enforce ghost town. They can go ahead and do it, but you are not going to change the mind of our people. Our people know exactly what they want. What they want is complete and total independence.
Dr.
I want you to
Mungwa, before we even get into the ghost town saga that is happening, we have images on the ground. We have actually reporters on the ground updating us on a minute by minute basis. Before we get that, I want us to come back to the Egiawan issue because it's kind of related to many other different concerns within the government, which I think um, every time we have the chance to talk to our people, we have a duty, like you've rightly placed, as the only platform that gives qualified information to break it down, expand on it, and give details. I'm talking about facts and figures. Fellow Amazonians, all of those watching us at the home front, we are going to get extensive with this discussion. For those watching on Facebook and on YouTube, ensure that you like, follow our page, share it, and make sure that somebody is following with you. Dr. Mungwa, you've highlighted, and like I said earlier on, you've said sparingly some of the deeds of Egiawan and why he is supposed to be arrested by the Ambazonian Restoration Forces. And that's what I'd like to know. Are you saying that resources that were meant for our IDPs and refugees, resources that were meant to enhance our self-defense apparatus, were swindled by this individual? And if so be, what is the figure? Can you audaciously talk to us as spokesman for this interim government in terms of amount, what Egiawan has disappeared?
Yes, absolutely. We can go back as far as my trip to Boya. And I'm so happy that that team actually did a fantastic job. The reason being, we did not hide any fact as far as MTTB was concerned. We were able to not only document in terms of paperwork, in fact, audio, we were able to record everything that everybody said. And there will come a time when that information in our archives will be released to the public. It probably will be a subject of research for future generations. I'm here to tell you that John Egewan, the so-called Bishop Egewan, is one of those who has worked so hard to destroy the interim government from his action and from his method of working. He was a thorn in the flesh when he was head of the self-defense group. And I have information here, documented. Let me just, again, I read this to you, that he could not give a comprehensive account of over $273,000 of MTTB money, over $100,000 for federal marshals money, $65 for Momo marshals. The only county that did a comprehensive and excellent job in training the field marshals was Ngok. And you saw them display their capability not so long ago during the last draft.
And this is because the money did not go through Egiawan. Am I correct?
Absolutely. This money did not go through Egiawan. People really have to understand this. Let us update our memory.
Ambazonians watching you worldwide, that the projects, that not even one project that went via Egiawan, I'm talking about projects of thousands of US dollars.
That's
not
correct.
even one.
Not even one. Remember, we had, again, this was a revolution that nobody was ready for it. And when people showed up at the door to volunteer, when you had people like John Egewan, who is an ex-US soldier, who had been either a religious leader in the US military, we had faith in him because we are people of faith. We said, if this guy is a pastor, a bishop,
I like what you said. We are a people of faith. We're going to analyze that before we come.
Absolutely.
Yes, go right.
So we trust them. And that's why some of those people, take a case like Chris Ano. Again, they come in, they say they are people of faith. And we trusted we are not claiming here that everybody who's a person of faith is fraud, but it seems to be a good opening for some people to get around. So in the case of John Egewan, he was a former either pastor or a priest or whatever in the U.S. Army. And he came with very good military experience. He had experienced war. Who else won't be happy to bring John Egewan in their midst? And that is actually what he did. He came and he decided to do what he did. In fact, it took a while for people to catch up with him until they started finding alternative people, until people discovered that they are not going to sit by and watch John Egewan and others take this revolution into the gutter. They decided to show up, and I was one of them. When I interviewed John Egewan, when I interviewed Chris Anu during my trip to Boya, when I looked through the cash flow, when I saw all the money that was allocated to each of these individuals, and were able to question them, we discovered that there were a lot of loopholes. But what could we do? We just have to make sure that we brought in what we call the management letter. The management letter was to restructure the interim government to bring in accountability. That was our first wake-up call. Yes.
Now, Secretary Mungwa, you are not saying that you got information from a second or third party. You're saying that you came into this government, you've said that a couple of times. You came in for auditing.
Yes.
And then you discovered who Dr. Sacco was, and you realized that it was just a witch hunt against the man. The Tabanyans were just trying to do witch hunt. Now, let's keep that on one side and focus on the issue relating to Egewan and the Ano. You're saying that you had noticed way ahead of time that these individuals were not honest with their duties as far as finances that were flowing into the government were concerned. Am I correct?
Right. Absolutely.
Give us a little bit more detail
on that, please. Exactly. That was the curiosity. I came like a blank slate. You know, I had no information about the workings of members of government or anybody who was involved in the revolution. I did not take part in anything. I was just an ordinary person who was just curious about what was going inside. I believed that I had a skill set that can help help the interim government to address some of its financial issues. And I came in through the treasury. I started working with Richard Tango, making sure that I set up the project management schedules, making sure that we know what we're supposed to do, who was accountable for, was responsible, and to make sure that we set deadlines. That's how I began to understand how the finances of the interim government, how everything operates. And we came to the realization that if we did not audit my trip to Boya, we are going to have a challenge moving forward, because they started losing trust in the government, and it was extremely important for us to conduct an audit. And it came to the point whether we're going to hire an external party, or we are going to constitute members of all the counties to make sure that we all sit together to find out the truth. Because we did not discriminate. So long as you were a member of a county and you were ready to look through the numbers, we're able to send out all the documentation that we had, okay, from Ambazonia Foundation and any other information we had on cash flow. And everybody had the right to go through, be able to identify whom money was given to, and to see whether there was any supporting fact. So I went through that for 40 days. And we also took time to interview everybody whose name was found on that database. Some showed up, some did not. And that is where we started seeing that there was a rat hole somewhere. Money was going to somebody, and there was a lot of complaint in the field. Lots of complaints. And that person was John Egewan. Initially, again, emotionally charged people, we could not believe that Egewan, who is so-called religious person, has worked in the U.S. Army, was now retired, would do this to his own people. That's why it took a while. And now, ultimately, when the Marshall Plan came, we discovered that this was just a common thief Egewan is a thief, and he knows it, because all this allegation, he has never been able to come out and provide evidence to the contrary. But now that we're able to make a statement that touches him deeply, he came out of the woodwork to release a disclaimer that he's not at ground zero. A John Egewan is not at ground zero. But he doesn't know that we have facts that he is traveling with a Nigerian passport. And he's using a Yoruba name. So let him know we're aware of it. And our mission is not over yet.
And sometimes he dresses Yoruba. Now, fellow Ambazonians, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about the man that has disappeared close more than $500,000 US that was raised by Ambazonians to enhance the struggle. We also have from intelligence report that he, in one of the countries in Africa, he actually is running businesses, and now businesses, I didn't say business, businesses, and he has built a house. Now you must understand who Secretary Martin Mungwa is. Secretary Martin Mungwa is a man of great caliber. You can investigate that through Google yourself. And he knows the implication of the words. He is not talking from innuendos. He's giving to us factual information that is investigatable. And this links to the litigation, Secretary Mungwa, that we have right now that is ongoing. And then we understand that he is part of it. We are told that he is intentionally avoiding to come into the United States. We even just have an intelligence report that Mr. Ano is purporting to be president so that he too can also escape the United States, probably because of wire fraud. Do you want to say
yes,
something?
that's serious, because they were unfortunate to discover that the case was of such high profile that it could not be dismissed, and the judge actually stated on the statement that was released that it's an emergency case. I'm not a lawyer to interpret what that means, but at least from a layman's language, when something is emergency, it means that it has to be done as soon as possible. Coming to Chris Anu, yes, he has. We have information that La Republique is planning to meet with him in maybe African country yet to be chosen, and he'll be meeting them there with some, of course, some of his collaborators to see how they are going to declare a 10-state federation. So let Ambazonians know, and all the operations that you see on the home front, what is happening in Bamenda. That it is actually La Republique soldiers now enforcing a ghost town. So they are actually saying, okay, we don't want the economy to work. It is actually mind-blowing. You don't really seem to understand the logic. They don't want the economy to work. Why? They think they are working for Chris Ano. The idea is they want to tell Ambazonians that, or the international community, that there you see, it is Chris Ano now who is actually in charge of what is happening at the home front. It's no longer the interim government. But they are mistaken. Look, we are not rats. We are not grasshoppers. People know exactly. You don't even have to be a genius to know exactly what is happening. When you see La Republique soldiers enforcing a ghost town, just ask them, why is it of any interest to you? They want to make the international community say, oh, okay, now Chris Ano, he's the person enforcing the ghost town, therefore he's the man in charge. And then they will wear their khaki pants and run to Kenya or run to Ghana and say, okay, this is a foreign country, let us talk about federation, and they'll give them a 10-state federation. It's like giving you a basket to go and fetch water. No matter how big that basket is, it's never going to hold water. Francophones do not understand federation. They don't understand it. They will never understand federation. And if people think that they are going to change after 60 years, then there's something wrong with her mental capacity. When Chris Ano goes out and says one thing, and behind the scene, he is talking to John Gute, he is talking to Paul Tasson about the scheme or what they are going to do to deceive Ambazonians. You cannot imagine. If you looked at the so-called images of his so-called inauguration, he is dancing as if it was a wedding, while Ambazonians are dying at the home front, while Ambazonians are being killed by the same soldiers that are in collusion with him, and he is dancing. What has he achieved in the past 6 months that he can come out and say, this is the reason why we are jubilating? He is not doing a fundraiser. Absolutely not. And when did Chris Ano ever do a fundraiser? Now that he'll be in charge of the home front and they give himself a salary, he actually comes out and said, I will receive a salary. This is somebody who has never given a dime to any draft, but he wants to receive a salary. Let Ambazonians think. We have seen President Sako.
You see, I'm beginning to think that our discussion tonight may not end because you're bringing in a lot of interesting things. You just said he has never given. That is a fact. I'm very much aware of that. He doesn't give. He doesn't even know how to give. But then there's an aspect of the fact that he was one of the campaigners against the so-called salary they claim President Sako was receiving. Based on Don Ted's investigation, we realized that President Sisiko was actually paying himself $6 every month when he was president.
$6,000.
And when he was leader, $6,000 every month. Where he was, while he was in Nigeria, we were told that. And then from governing council right on to when
he you can live for $100 a month. He was paying himself $6,000. And people don't think there is an issue.
And then we understand that it is still not factual information for anyone to claim that the president is being paid a salary. Maybe they are not distinguishing between the office of Ambazonia in the United States and the president's salary. Maybe you want to make that clarity.
President does not receive any salary.
Just receive an audio coming in from the president, and I want to make sure that Ambazonians watching us now can listen to that audio so that we analyze it. Go right ahead, sir.
Yes, I want to make it very clear. Dr. Sako does not receive any salary in the United States. There is an office of the president which is owned by Ambazonians, and it is our responsibility to fund it. We have to fund it because that's where all the services to Ambazonia take place. Dr. Sako does not receive a stipend. Okay? Dr. Sako has a job to do. So he has a job and he's being paid on that job. But as far as Ambazonia is concerned, he does not receive a stipend. Okay?
You know, I understand that the president will not even want to answer this question publicly. He will prefer naysayers to continue wandering in their fabrication and others in their assumption. A lot of Ambazonians are not aware that the president is actually doing something that earns him more than enough revenue. There was one time he mentioned
Dr. Sako makes enough money as a financial leader.
I don't deliver an information that he wouldn't want.
Let me make it very clear. Okay?
That he is actually not even doing the Bitcoin that people are insinuating.
No. He is not into any securities. Bitcoin comes under securities. He is not. Dr. Sako is a financial expert and he makes enough money. You'll be surprised than you and I. He makes even more money than I do from his expertise as a realtor, as a financial expert. So there's no reason why he should.
And business consultant.
Absolutely. It's a business
a lot
consultant.
of people are not aware of that information.
Okay? So he has no need to be stealing from Ambazonians. There is the office of the president, which rightfully must be funded by Ambazonians. And we've seen the service that he has performed to Ambazonians.
So you're saying, Dr. Mungwa, that the office of the president, which is the Ambazonian office, is what is being funded. Yes, I've also watched the audio with Mr. Arno actually, maybe in anticipation that his friends were going to make him a president of their group. He was just preparing the minds of the people that he will be requiring money for his duties.
we don't have to belabor that point. For those who want to find out,
Now,
they
let's get back on this issue of the so-called lockdown that is happening in some areas in Bamenda. It's quite troubling that in spite of every effort that has been made to inform our people are locked down because someone is intimidating them.
right.
They are aware. Lots of calls have come in, meaning that they are cognizant of the fact that the interim government has not ordered anything. But you have armed men, terrorists, bulus, in conjunction with maybe some wannabes,
Yes.
imposing them to stay at home.
Remember, the interim government is a government of responsibility. We understand the challenges that people face at home. We don't want at times to order people to go out and then the military will just shoot them around them. I think even this can be a tactical retreat. Even in war, when an army retreats, it doesn't mean that they've lost. We have to understand that. The lives of Ambazonians are far more important to us than anything else. So when we make sure that we don't confront them in a situation where we are not going to win, it does not help us at all. And I want Ambazonians to know this. And we appreciate the fact that in as much as they are staying at home, they know that they are with the interim government. And that is, I will call that in military terms, a tactical retreat. We can't just be going forward and forward when we know that things are in danger, just like our restoration forces. We are fighting guerrilla war. So we don't expect them just to come out in the open just to show that, oh, we can stand in front of the Cameroon military. It is not helpful at all. And we've always instructed them. They should be anonymous. They should be anonymous. In fact, what the La Republique Army is doing in Bamida is actually good for us. They are helping us to kill that economy because that's been one of our weapons, economic sabotage. So La Republique has now recognized that even that economy that they're trying to grow is hopeless. So they're actually on our side. In case they don't know, they are on our side. So they're actually pushing for this economic destruction. I think it will be interesting to hear what the mayor of Bamenda says. That at one time they're forcing people to open their stores. A few days later, the military comes and shuts everything down. Is that how a country is run economically? And they're going out to build more seaports, more airports, when there are no planes to land. What type of a country is that? Douala is totally useless. Instead of rehabilitating Douala Airport, instead of rehabilitating the Douala seaport, they want to build a new airport in Tico. They want to build a new seaport in Tico, 40 kilometers long. What is that? And when you look at the structure from a purely project management perspective, all you see is a budget.
Now, the question I would like to ask Dr.
Okay?
Mungwa,
You have
is
to
it
understand
actually a political mission? Is it just a political endeavor? Or do you think they genuinely would like to rehabilitate, like I heard one of their commentators saying, from category B or C airport, whatever jargon it is? I'm not very interested. I'm not a civil engineer. I don't want to construct an airport. But the point I want us to be able to settle on, are they being genuine with this whole idea? Are they being genuine with this whole idea, or is it just some political agenda to manipulate our people because they are now well informed with the efforts, mostly your efforts, and the fact that they have been educated on what Cameroon has done to us, or how Cameroon has really raped us economically and destroyed whatever asset we had for the past 6 years? Is
let me
there
just put
any?
it to you in layman's terms. Whenever you
Right.
have a big project to do, let me tell you, you need a schedule. When is it going to start and when is it going to end? My question to you is, have they told you when that project is going to start or when it's going to end? But there's one piece of information we know. We know when it started, when the feasibility study was performed. When? 23 years ago. I don't know how old you were, Paddy, when the studies were done. And in terms of financial, how can you perform a project? Because when you do a project like a seaport, you have to estimate some parameters. What will be the number of ships? What will be the amount of cargo? And how much do we have to provide for storage? How much do we have to provide for transitional materials? You have to provide that information at that time. Do you think that that information is still valid 23 years later? That's the first problem as a project manager. Second, when you look at the schedule, there's something called the critical path. What is the longest time you take in order to accomplish all the tasks that you've identified? Do we have that information? We don't. All we have is a budget. There's one gentleman who was so proud to send that budget to me, and they were all unit items. It did not even factor in inflation over time. Is that the price that they gave? Was it the price in 23 years ago, or is it today's prices? Another thing that you always have to look into in project management, long lead items. Which equipment will be bought from overseas and brought and installed? Do we have a list of them? Have they been ordered? Are you sure that they are going to arrive on time in order for them to be installed? Have they thought about it? Of course not. And you think these people are serious about building a port? They are not serious. They have no clue in project management. It goes beyond engineering. So these are the little things that I have to tell you. First of all, if they were really serious about the seaport, they should have brought a schedule. They should have had town hall meetings, explain to the population what the intent is, give a justification for that project. That listen, we have a growing amount of merchandise or cargo that we have to send overseas, which is going to bring back this amount of money. This is the financial justification, the business case. And then a very smart person will ask the minister or whoever that person is, because even up to now, we don't know who the project manager is. How are we going to survive with the 10 billion ton seaport on the other side of Bakassi? Is it going to affect us? Maybe not. Let him explain to us and show the numbers, show the cash flow, show the return of investment, show the project life cycle, so that people understand. I want to see the baseline information. They don't have it. All they have, they are running around with the budget because that's how they steal the money. Everyone is excited to see the budget. Oh, 3 units of this, 20 billion francs CFA, and they go and cut it. That's all they are interested in. These people have no clue in project management, and I can challenge them to it. How would the money be obtained? How is the appropriation process? Which envelope is it going to come from? Do you have maintenance issues? Who is going to be responsible for that?
You see, one thing that is interesting in all of this, Dr. Mungwa, is the fact that we are coming from a pain. Every time we Ambazonians hear that there is an infrastructural idea that is gearing towards any county or LGA in Ambazonia, it's a provocation. Like Samuel Eto'o coming up a few months ago to suggest that he's going to be stay there in all of the Camerons, starting with Bamenda. And we thought that was an insult. Why?
Did they finish the one in the Olympic Stadium? Did they finish it? It's still uncompleted.
It's not about what they start and finish. It's about the fact that why is Bamenda coming only after 60 years? Whether they finish it, it is their business when it comes to that. Well, our question is, why now? You
I
see,
think we've
it's
answered that
this
several times.
provocation that brings us back down to the basis of our quest for freedom and why we fight.
They have never been able to accomplish any project for 60 years. Yet, in the short period of time that John Gould Foncha was prime minister, he was able to take a loan, build the Bamenda market, and repay that loan. Record time. That is a government that came to power in the 50s. We are talking about 60, 70 years later. These people cannot build a 200-kilometer road. In China, it takes 3 years. La Republique has just been able to build 60 kilometers over a period of more than almost getting to 10 years today. And they feel that is there not something fundamentally wrong? Can't people see this degree of ineptitude, of complete unprofessional behavior? That is the country we want to form a federation with. And let me tell you, if you go to that federation, they will make sure you are never in charge of the finances of your so-called state or whatever it is. They'll still be manipulating, making sure that they give you something on paper and you never see anything. We cannot accept it. Let Chris Anu go to Ghana or to Kenya and start that dance that he showed on television. We are not interested. We are not interested.
I was just about to say to Mungwa, one thing I honestly don't believe is the fact that there are Ambazonians that are interested in any federation. And this brings us into the next phase of this discussion, which was part of your... do you really think that an Ambazonian would want to be in a federation? And if yeah, could possibly be that an Ambazonian would want to be in a federation with La République du Cameroon, owing to our history and the carnage that is in our homeland right now.
Desperation. I see some people now have said, well, I've suffered too much. And even if I say yes or no, I will not probably live long enough to enjoy anything. So I don't care. But
so it's about self now, not about a common good.
Of course not. You think a person like Paul Tasson is thinking about the common good? When he knew very well that under normal circumstances, he will not be where we are. He is right now. You know the modus operandi of the La République. They have been instructed by France that if you are looking for an Anglophone to serve in your government, make sure you look for the dumbest. Look for people who never have opinions of their own. Because that's what we did to you. All the Umyo-based, those who really wanted independence, what happened?
By default.
They killed them and they look for people who did not want independence.
By default, I like to amplify your statement so that it's understood. By default, you are saying that Cameroon has assortedly positioned the dumbest of the Ambazonian community within their government, like the Ngole, the Celine Dion Gute, the Paul Tassons. You have George Ewane, the Kimbo man. They used to call him the Kimbo man, Kimbo man, who is now mobilizing the best of his kind in town hall meetings. Their objective is to strategize and to counter our movement. So you're confirming audaciously this evening, this is close to 10 p.m. Amber time on the 13th of September, Ambazonians are watching you, that we have the dumbest of Ambazonian origin, Southern Cameroonian born, injected in the La République du Cameroon government.
That's correct. Although, just ask yourself, can you imagine you are told that we're going to give you foreign soldiers to move into your village and kill your own brothers and sisters, and you accept? Try that anywhere in the world.
I was about to say that you justify that and you're gradually going to the justification. Keep on.
Okay? Just try that anywhere. People have been alarmed by what the so-called Ambazonian politicians do in Yaoundé. I know situations where people of foreign nationalities have called Ambazonians, foreigners living in Ambazonia. What is happening that they are doing this to your own people? Can you stand up and speak? They don't. They don't. They don't speak. I have names all over Ambazonia, whether it's Ngokitunja, whether it's Bui, whether it's Meme, we have them. They have called them. They are just shocked at what is happening to their countrymen. But they come out smiling in $1,000 suits. How they're coming to with President Paul Biya's message. Let Ambazonians know we shall never go down that path. We are here for their future, and they think that they are going to divorce the diaspora from the home front. They are mistaken. And I want to let the home front understand that the only reason why they want to split the home front from the diaspora is because we are very effective. If we were not
Dr. Mungwa, I don't want you
yes,
to rush that. There's a point where I would like you not to rush it. I want you, the way you're crushing it and ironing it and splitting it and exposing it is the way that Amazonians are enjoying it. And I'm here as a mouthpiece of Amazonians trying to pull as much as I can from you every time we have the chance to get you on air. This is the point. You're giving one very powerful reason. It takes only a dummy like Paul Tasson, a dummy like Ngole Ngole, a dummy like Dion Guti, a dummy like Nijon Fundi to allow a people go into your own secret places and defy it with iron bullets. That's one point. Enforce on that again and expand on other points. We like to know, because this is important, the international community should understand why we are totally turning our backs against these folks. So you have the right speaker to tell the world and Ambazonians why these individuals are dummies. Thank you.
it is shocking. It is shocking that in a so-called country of democratic values, you can have the national army go to specific parts of the country to kill its own people. When the army is only there for threats from overseas, but they are using the state army to go into neighborhoods and kill its own citizens. And you have politicians, some are university professors, some are actually engineers. They go out and they say, yes, you can go and kill my own people. How can that be acceptable? So you understand from now that La République's modus operandi is exactly what they did, the French did to them. Make sure you take people who are totally incapable of executing the tasks of ruling, of governing. So when they come to power, you will always be by their side. And the only way they will be effective is taking orders directly from you. And that's why when this war started, every morning, the minister of the armed forces or defense, or whatever he is, he had to wait for the French to send him an email telling him what to do. And he simply do it, and at the end of the day, he will give them his report. Just like Biya did. He said, je vais en France pour rendre compte rendu, whatever he said in French. But from my broken understanding of French, he was going back to France to give an account of his actions. If Paul Biya can do that and say it openly, what do you expect those so-called ministers? So these are the facts that Ambazonians have to understand very clearly. And we are not going to admit that sort of behavior. Neither within the interim government.
You see, Dr. Mungwa, that is, it's you see, listening to you now kind of pull the emotion. I can imagine those who are looking up to these individuals what are thinking. There's an economic aspect or twist to these donors that I like us to expose. Look at the richest people in the Cameroons today, either from the Sawa or the Bulu land. They just have money in their accounts. You don't even know where they're getting it. You hear of Fadi in the north. Now, according to unverifiable reports, because I've not been able to find that in Forbes, we are told that Ndawara, who is an Ambazonian born, is the richest man in West Africa. But if you look at it, we don't seem to figure out or see his money in the Forbes release. I don't find it. If they are saying he has 3.5 billion, then he should be top 10 richest Africans, because you have the 10th person, which is Strive Masiyiwa of Zimbabwe, features as the 10th person. He's on a tie with, I think, one person from Tanzania, if I'm not mistaken. But you don't see any Cameroonian in a country and the Gulf of Guinea. I'm happy you have about 2 or 3 Nigerians in the top 10. Why? Because Nigeria, as a member country in the Gulf of Guinea, should have black people or should really have rich people. And the Gulf of Guinea happens not to be the richest part in the entire world. Not just in Africa, but in the entire world. One of the richest regions in the entire world. Now look at Ambazonia, that is richer than La République du Cameroon, that actually has the resources. And then you see the dummies that we've just signed or highlighted are preferably wanting to get the crumbs. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Okay, let's go back.
Rather let Mr. Biya be there and manage it for them to be paid salaries.
First of all, remember that we're even lucky that we woke up during today's social media to expose a lot of the plans that La République had as far as 1961. One of the strategies that the French kept teaching La République is that make sure you keep them poor. Whenever people are kept poor, you can always control them. And you understand. And that's what has happened. I'll give you examples. One of the things that was very particular in our culture, entrepreneurship, came all the way from the British, calling them, they're sort of corner store owners, shopkeepers, as they used to call it. We know that the only way to build an economy is to do business. And the moment we came into contact with La République, they discovered that we had a lot of entrepreneurship. Naga company, Che company. And they were shocked and frightened. Because if you can let these people create wealth, it means that at one time, politics and money, they're very close. When you have enough money, you can take over politics. And they started eliminating these people very early in the process. Thank God that the entrepreneurial spirit had been in our DNA from the word go. But the Francophones have no entrepreneurial spirit because they've been suppressed, and they've given them legal tools to suppress them. And one of the legal tools is the so-called civil law. Because all it takes is to accuse somebody of a crime, and that's enough for that person to be locked up. But in the common law system, you wouldn't do that. They will fight you in court, and you may end up losing. And that's where the regulation comes in. Exactly. And this is the tool that they have been using against us.
You know, Dr. Mungwa, you just brought up a point that explains why Olangena Awono, even though those are people that embezzle huge sums of money, the Olangena Awonos, the Ababa, Polycarp Ababa, the Atangana Mebaras, you have just explained why they have been kept in Kondengi.
Right. they have no
because they can take
entrepreneurial
power
spirit.
with a
No,
huge sum of money they amassed.
right. So people really have to understand they don't have an entrepreneurial spirit because of what. Listen, no, whether we like it or not, what the British did and the way they sort of govern our societies, we cannot help but copy what they did. We cannot help, and the same applies to francophones and La République du Cameroon. The same thing that France did in Haiti, how they were able to suppress everything, kill entrepreneurial spirit because they are always afraid that one day the master will be attacked. And that has been their signature on the world economy. That has
It's a
been the
way
main
of,
signature on the world economy.
it's a way of making you a beggar forever. Like
That's
you
correct.
keep on begging
And
and
that's
begging.
why when you look at the world economy, only the
You're a
so-called
slave.
Anglo-Saxon countries flourish. Okay, because they actually encourage entrepreneurial spirit. Because when you are somebody who is in need and you finally find your feet and you're able to feed yourself, you'll be surprised that you will be less of a burden to society. The Anglo-Saxon education system recognized that a long time ago. You'll be less of a burden, and in fact, you can abide by certain rules freely without being forced.
Now, considering all of this, Dr. Mungwa, it is evident that that has been the French policy that is using they're using in their colonies, and that's why you find not many are millionaires in dollars or billionaires in dollars from French colonies in Africa, particularly. You can easily see real billionaires coming in from Zimbabwe, from Nigeria, and maybe North Africa, but you don't really get for registering billionaires because keeping you at that level, you can easily be controlled. And
That's
these
right.
are the same, this is the same system EML Endele understood and one of our forebears. Now, Foncha, before he passed on, had understood this and repented. But again, we find ourselves in a day where some apologists are actually begging. I wrote to Agbo Gibbet, one of those whom Chris Arno. I knew him in Cameroon. We on the film in the film industry. A lot of Cameroon Ambazonians are not aware that I was directly involved in film industry. And so I wrote to him on Facebook. I saw part of his comment, and then I wrote to him. I said, "My brother, that means I saw you really beg for be a slave for La Republic of Cameroon." He first of all replied, and no, I wrote something, he replied, and then I now say you are now begging to be a part of them. So he was ashamed he didn't reply. Him amongst many, like the one George, like the Padia Sangha, like all them who had the meeting, secret meeting that we invaded and got information from over the weekend, and that was on Saturday. They're actually begging to be slave. And this is part of your discussion of today. The federation, they are begging. Their catchphrase coming back to explain why they want to stay is the federation. Now, nobody's even suggesting to them a federation that it doesn't exist in French Africa, but they are dreaming that Cameroon will be a unique case. Now, just to conclude on this matter so that we get on to the president's audio and starts receiving calls. What do you think that these individuals combine? What do you think they are missing out with this whole illusion of a federation that they are hoping for and pleading and forcing and incriminating to ensure that every other Ambazonian can be a part of?
It is not only disappointing, um, but it also shows the shallowness of the position that this gentleman. I don't know them personally, so I wouldn't really know. You can have people who are just ignorant, and maybe they are doing that for some little prize that will be given to them. Let me talk about people I know, people I've observed. You take somebody like Cristiano, who at this moment is unemployed. Let Ambazonians know that. And that's why he's insisting on having a salary. Cristiano is unemployed. It is not easy to live in America as an unemployed person. And therefore, you can understand him making such a statement. He doesn't realize how embarrassing it is, where there is a fictitious group of people you think they are actually following you. You already declared that you're going to take money as a president. You have a lot of short-sighted Ambazonians who have been living in this bubble. And they think that by selling their conscience to La Republique, maybe in return, they will get something that is even more long-lasting. I can tell you, that is what these people are living on. They're living on false promises. They don't believe in equal opportunity. They don't believe in an open playing field or level playing field. And I can tell you that a lot of those Ambazonians who have had the privilege in the past of having parents who were civil servants in Yaoundé, of having relatives who were in some so-called ministerial position or in some big government office, they feel that their rights are being trodden upon by these other people who will now rise up and be as equal as they are. They don't like it. We know a lot of them. You go to some of the WhatsApp groups, some of the statements they're making, they care less about the lives of our own people. They're only thinking about how their parents were, senior civil servants, we were given a car, we were given servants, we had a house. That's all they're thinking, and they are so greedy. And that's not unusual. Greed is the first character of the human person, unless you are educated to understand the value of human beings and the value of equity in society. We are educated enough. We believe that we have been a few of the lucky ones among the Amazonians. And that's why we are fighting for this. We are not fighting because I'm going to make money. We are not fighting because I'm going to inherit something that will be bigger than what I have. We believe that in one way, directly or indirectly, some of their relatives have actually been part of my life, whether they paid taxes or they did something to me without me knowing. And it is our responsibility to pay back dividend to the communities or societies where we lived, or where we grew up.
Dr. Mungwa, you have expanded on 3 reasons that you feel these individuals are missing. I want to use your word. I like to crystallize it so that Ambazonians get it. You've said probably these people, or certainly, some of them are just being short-sighted. Others are actually hoping for some falsehood promise. Some are just being egotic, self-centered, maybe because of their what the Frenchman would call besoin, their investments in La République du Cameroon, and they would rather mortgage the entire Ambazonia or the virtues of our international boundaries just because they have infrastructure in Yaoundé, Douala, or they have amassed some wealth. And they're thinking that this whole idea of a state that we want to restore will be a stumbling block. Am I correct?
That's correct. You'll be amazed the petty things that people get attached to in the face of existential threat to our entire country. You'll be amazed. There are people who are going to Ambazonia and investing money. They think they want to build some institutions, they want to do this, they want to build a hospital. And you just ask them that simple question: who are you building it for? Is it better for us to stop this war and then build our country? Or in the midst of war, you want to go and invest? But I can assure you, the moment those structures are attacked and destroyed, they will be the first to come out to say, oh, interim government, what can we do? Look at what is happening to us. And yet behind the scene, They can't even give $100 for a wounded soldier. They think that we own this war. I don't. The war is owned by all Ambazonians. This war is not owned by Dr. Sako. You are not even doing Dr. Sako a favor. Nobody's doing a favor to anybody.
I heard the president actually saying that, and it's vital for the president. The president, after a long time, just going to the counties and the LGAs and mobilizing and talking and mobilizing resources. I saw a comment on Facebook that was quite interesting, Dr. Mungwa. I loved it, and the person said, "Why Anu and Co are having a meeting with the Tassons and the vice and the Prime Minister of La Republique to Cameroon, plotting on how to mortgage Ambazonia once again, and to have the federation now and perhaps the independence 30 years later." He has even said, when you have a man that is a communicator that comes publicly to tell Ambazonians the war is going to last for 30 years, if he's a communicator, then he's not ignorant of the psychological impact of that message. That we leave on a side. You and myself and Watch, I will handle some of those things tomorrow. But this is the point. This person said, Cristiano, why he is doing that with the Tasong and this, Marianta is busy creating a town hall fighting for what? Dr. Sako, that was on Saturday. Dr. Sako is busy mobilizing resources and enabling our restoration volunteers, restoration fighters, or the volunteers on the home front to be properly equipped. You see, the president for a while, for weeks now, has spent that time, and he has expressed concerns that he wants to have a one-on-one discussion with his people, and that is going to be this Thursday. So there is an exceptional town hall. I'm talking to every Amazonian watching me right now. There will be an exceptional town hall with the president this Thursday, and it is scheduled to start at exactly 8 p.m. Amber time. We will be there, the press secretary, myself, and the ladies, the undaunted girls, will be there an hour before to give some updates on the UN General Assembly and some updates from the ground before receiving the president. It's going to be a very special one. We hope to broadcast it through all our networks. But before Dr. Mungwa even makes a statement on that, I'd like you to listen to the president. Stay tuned.
Fellow Ambazonians, this Thursday, the 15th of September 2022, perhaps one of the most important Ambazonia town hall meeting with the interim government. It will be organized. And me, I get a very important thing for tell you and all Ambazonians from all 13 counties, all ARFs, everybody in the diaspora supporting this struggle, whether in front or from behind. I don't want to make someone tell you. I want to make you be present and you hear. I call on all our refugees, wherever you are. This one at the make or mark town hall meeting. And I invite you, I want to make you hear directly from me. This Thursday, the time na 9 p.m. Boya time. 9 p.m. Boya time. And I want to make you hear them through somebody. I want to make you tune direct. It will be for Zoom. So check ABC, check all the fora. If you know anybody within the IG or the local government or county, ask for the Zoom meeting and make sure say you log in. 9 p.m. I'll be talking to Ambazonians. I want to make a talk to you face to face. God bless you and may God prosper us to a free Ambazonia. Thank you.
So that was the president of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia coming back to his people in all humility. We just heard him using the pidgin language to communicate to the people. He says, I want to talk for you, eyeball to eyeball, face to face. And this is what leadership Dr. Mungwa is. A man who has his ears on the ground And when things are not going, the first caption the president sent out was, I like to read it so that I am very sure that I'm quoting the exact same thing the president said. You will hear a president that says, amidst the chaos and everything, come and hear my decision and position. So the noise is out there, everybody's talking. Lots of things are happening. There is even something, there's a great achievement ongoing now. I'm not the one to announce it publicly. Perhaps the president himself will be doing that announcement on something that, as I was trying to contact him right now, and he was in real diplomatic talk and session. That's quite impressive and interesting. But he's the president that says, after the many voices, come and hear my voice. And this man, anytime he talks, Ambazonians listen. He's not just coming out to do some campaign. He wants to have a heart-to-heart discussion with the people. He's the one that is feeding the refugees. He's the one that's enhancing the boys. While others are planning to kill the boys, he's planning to protect them. This is President Sako for you. Talk to us, spokesman.
Thank you. I think I'm so happy that you aired that audio from the president, Dr. Sako, and that has been his tradition. He has always been in touch with the people. And for those who are accustomed to being part of the town hall meetings, you realize that he has no, put it this way, you can ask him any question you want. He's ready to answer. You may think that the question is really embarrassing, but by the time he responds to you, then you will realize exactly where you are coming from. This is somebody who understands not only Ambazonia, but the way the international community looks at the struggle. He knows how to interface with the different interlocutors so that they can understand our story. We don't go to interlocutors to bully them or to give them orders. We go with them with facts and patterns. We go to them with convincing arguments. We go to them to strike on their empathy. That is how this government has been sustainable, and we are making a lot of headway diplomatically. It's not my mission to tell you, but let me tell you, there's one thing I'm sure about. The status of the interim government today is far, far stronger than what it was 9 months ago, because we have been consistent and we have been truthful, and we are making gains which Ambazonians will see in the weeks and months to come. That is my message to the Ambazonian people. And I can reiterate here that Dr. Sako will not disappoint you. When you have people at the home front, you have Ambazonian, so-called Ambazonian politicians, whether it's John Gute, whether it's Peter Mafani Musonge, whether it's Frundi, and they are actually colluding with La République du Cameroon, either to kill their own people, actually know that they are going out to kill people in their various constituencies, and they sit there in all these mansions that they have built from stolen money. Take the case of Peter Mafani Musonge, who stole 3.5 billion CFA from the CDC. Let him sit down and just listen to his conscience. Is there anything that he can show up to Ambazonians for us to emulate as a role model? Is there any? Can he come out and categorically state that all this wealth that I have, all these buildings I have around Boya, I got them as a result of honest work? Is this what we have to be teaching our offsprings, that that's how we build communities? I think the answer to all that is no. We are blessed There is somebody who is ready to stand at the line of fire to protect every Ambazonian, and that person, Dr. Samuel Sako. And let it be known, history will judge us what we've done to bring back sovereignty and to bring back, how do I put it, recognition of the human being, the importance of the human being back to our country. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Mungwa. I was trying to enhance some videos here. Now you just mentioned so much about the leader. You know, there's a difference between everybody trying to become a leader. You know, let's even consider that by some means, Ambazonia is selecting or electing a leader. I do not have any personal problem with democracy, but not Chris Ano. Forgive me, sometimes some people wouldn't want me to talk about this. This is a man that cannot manage a department within a government. This is a man that even the Abongwas or the few that agreed with him for a few moments actually agreed with him because they thought they were going to use him. And this is a man who is purportedly wanting to bring Amazonians together by dividing them. This is the man that has gone down history for dividing the nation of Ambazonia more than any other has done since 2016. Ayuk Tabedit, but he did it last year at a peak, at a time when Cameroon was panting. So we're not trying to do, I'm not trying to do a comparison.
Let me narrate you a little, there's a little twist here. Let me just narrate something maybe people don't know. There's a little twist in the reason why La Republique is actually interested in Chris Ano. There's a fundamental reason why. Besides all the claim about whether his brother is alive or dead, or that is totally out of the question. Do you know why Chris Ano left La Republique? He was running away from his life because he had written a book claiming that Mr. Biya killed his wife. And they were looking for him. Look, La Republique is a government of gangsters. He will pay one day. The day they catch Chris Ano and his so-called the president of a fictitious Ambazonia, they will remind him of that dossier. That's what they did to Atanganji, who was a criminal. He was in jail. Perhaps, and they gave him a position of, let me finish. Let me just finish this.
Perhaps when they, because it is, I know you're going to continue, but I just want to cue you in so that you don't you don't forget any. You see, they're already criticizing him, not criticizing. We are getting reports. It's not a report that is made by me, but I have read from reports that he is under an oath or obligation to do what he's doing now. Maybe when his family was arrested, and then we're getting other intelligence that his brother has been smuggled into Ghana, and therefore whatever he's doing now is a way of, because there's a lot of contradiction.
Yeah,
I'm not the one
doing
it.
Understand that.
There's a lot of contradiction in all of that.
Yeah, that is irrelevant. But listen, La Republique, they've done this thing in 60 years. They already know the modus operandi. The fact that he made that statement about Bia's late wife, that he was the one who killed her, and he was being chased. He actually wrote a so-called book and ran to Nigeria, and as a reporter or for some backstreet newspaper or whatever, and eventually found himself in the United States. You think La Republique will forget you? They will never forget you. That's Banqui's job. Track all those who have made statements against the regime. And now what is the bait? They want to support him to be head of state. I told you, they always look for corrupt people. They will wait until when Chris Ano falls into that trap. And now they come to a point where they think Chris Ano will serve them. they will pull
Now, the
that
point
trigger.
I wanted to make is that don't you think that by some means he has already fallen in that trap and he's trying to pay for his crime by destabilizing the
I
struggle.
don't
That
think he has started paying for his crime yet. He has not. He has not. Let him successfully take Ambazonia to La Republique. And actually, and the La Republique feels that, okay, you are in control of Ambazonia. That's when they'll get out of the woodworks. Chris Ano will see a different, they'll send you information about him.
Are you saying he's already in the trap now and he's attempting to pay for, but he has not even paid?
The payment hasn't started. They've just thrown him the bait. It's like you are going fishing. You throw the bait and you actually see, that indicator on water moving. They say, oh yeah, he's about to catch it. That is still moving. The day he will swallow it and they pick him out of water, Chris Ano will be shocked.
I cannot agree any less with you, Dr. Mungwa, because this is something that Madam Endele, Emma Endele, and myself noticed last year, way before this time, that there was just something wrong about him. He started in the month of August telling us, late July, August, at that time we just started working with Cynthia Williams, and he was telling us he would like to have vacation. But you could see at every encounter we had with him, either in meetings or in discussion, that there was an uneasy feeling, primarily because the deadline was coming to close, and the Judiciary Commission had already written to the defunct deleted Restoration Council to tell them whatever you're thinking in your mind is not constitutional. So there was something that was not right. We noticed it. And Madam Endele said outrightly to me one day, we were talking, he said, the way Anu is behaving like somebody that is under pressure. There were things he wanted to do within the communications department. It wasn't logical. There was a lot of...
I can interpret that now. It was a combination of having a means of survival. He might have been promised a certain amount of payoff, or if he addresses a few things. It was purely financial. And when I looked into Chris Arnold's face, I saw his soul. A very, very hungry man, and a wretched, poor, and in fact, I think he was only ashamed to go to an orphanage to be adopted. That's what Chris Arnold is. But his, how do I put it? His taste to have something, get money, my goodness, is beyond his means. At one time, he said he wanted to write an IT certification so that he can form his own business. And then suddenly, when they told him that, listen, we have to bring in a board at ABC, he went, my goodness, he was so angry because that's where he was feeding. That is Chris Arnold. It's a very, very simple formula. This is somebody who is extremely greedy, somebody who is very hungry, somebody who wants to have everything for himself. And he will talk and think that everybody else is listening to him. He believes that, I mean, he has a baritone voice. There's no doubt about that. I mean, probably if he's a singer, he can make more money. He'll probably make more money if he's a singer. But, he's taken a profession where he's not so good at trying to lead a people. And you can see
but he has gotten for himself a television,
okay.
And if he dies today, his family inherits an ABS. And that means at his old age, I say all the time, he has been a journalist for years and for decades. But at old age,
he was a reporter. I don't know whether he was a journalist. That's make sure that you use the terminology.
Okay,
right.
Reporter, journalist.
Yeah.
There is really not much difference when it comes to the.
Well, I don't think.
Portfolio,
okay, that's fine.
To the portfolio, but the point about it is, whatever he calls himself, he says he's a journalist. Some say he's a reporter. Journalist, reporter. There's a question to it as to what level of reporting and journalism was he doing prior to the struggle in 2016. It's a major concern. I'm just agreeing with you,
Yeah, but whenever you look at all those characters in La Republique, those who are always so vocal, like Atanganji, and then you look at his background, you realize that they're all the same. Whether it's Paul Tasson, look at his background. I look at Chris Arnold, look at his background. There's always something dark about their backgrounds. Something, fishy, something that you can't really understand. And you see the way they act, it's as if they're under some command. There's somebody telling them what to do. And they don't really care whatever people around them say against their opinions. They go ahead and they do it. This is the spell that Cristiano finds himself, because on the one side, how is he even going to survive in America if he never has a job? This is not a welfare country. I don't know how many years he has to go on retirement to assume that he may actually live in America. He'll probably work until the day he collapses at work because he doesn't have a job, so there's no pension for him. So what else is better than selling his country so that he can go back home like an important person who had lived overseas and probably be able to get something for himself for the rest of his life? So you can see the dilemma in front of this man. He has no skills to sell. You tell me, what can you ask Chris Arnold to do for you to pay him a comfortable salary? I would have imagined that
because by default,
even his license as an IT technician, that might actually give him something.
But you just said something which I want us to elaborate on as we're waiting for the calls to come in. I've missed 2 calls. Please keep call again. I'm sorry, I did not notice. Just keep calling about 2. Okay, about 3 calls. But then you just said he has nothing to sell. And by default, he has just given up the anchorman and anchormanship that he inherited or developed for himself within the interim government, and then took it as a resource
he had itchy fingers. He had itchy fingers, if you know what that means.
As a resource to create a Zoom meeting, as a result to convince some other Confucianists, like the demented Confucianists. I'm talking about Sango Luis Tongwe, Mbaraku, Kometa. Now, these are all failed politicians who are now hoping that Anchorman is going to anchor them to somewhere. But he has just given up. He has given up now by default, by being the president of his Njangi group. But by default, he has given up the only thing that we're looking for.
Yeah, listen, buddy, I think I talked about, I have to make sure that we have to understand certain things so that we don't have to repeating the same story over and over again. We talk about patterns. We have to look at patterns. And I brought the issue of patterns last week. I talked about trust. You cannot have somebody who's never trusted to expect that he is going to create the person they trust. You look at John Gute, Peter Mafani Musonge, you look at Philemon Yang, all those in government. Who trusts them? Nobody trusts them. And they know it. Nobody trusts them. Even Bia does not trust them. If he has something really important to do, he's not going to go to these fellows to ask them, what can I do? He doesn't trust them. And you think these people will look for Ambazonians who are trusted? They cannot. It does not work. And the same thing comes to Crisano. He's part of the same people, the same group of people. Whether it's Paul Tasson, is he a trustworthy man? You ask me, can you trust Paul Tasson? And you realize that all these people have certain things in their past that makes them, in a pure democratic environment, to be considered as leaders. Like
so
these
are groups of untrusted.
They know them. Exactly. They know them. You cannot survive. Okay? So we have to know this. These are untrustworthy people, and they know it. Look at all of them put together. They have that pattern. They have that signature over their names. They lack trust. Nobody will trust them.
And just to enforce
you can ever associate with a politician that is untrustworthy. If anybody considers you untrustworthy, that's the end of you.
Just to enforce on that trust, he says he has said a lot of things and denied them. Just within the time of his campaign, he comes and then his maiden address to the nation. After accusing Iya, that's also another unfortunate situation. After accusing Iya, during his maiden address to his viewers, he started by lying that they did not take anything from the national treasury. So it was an empty national, or the banks that they smuggled money from. It was not really a takeover.
I don't want to put emphasis on that because he's going to prove it in court. I think we already have information that the court actually rejected their claim that it was supposed to be a non-event. So he will go and tell the American judges that either the judges are lying or that somebody else is lying. These people do not know the weight of the words that come out of their mouth. They think that we are somewhere in Yaoundé where you can say anything and walk free. They are going to indict themselves. They are going to be the people to create conditions that will make the situation even worse for them. When you commit a federal crime, it is very serious. And people will not just dismiss it for the sake of it. So Chris Kanu can go to the end of the world. The American justice will be behind him. And he's not the first to be picked up in La Republique or picked up in Ambazonia, whether it is in the southern zone or in the northern zone. We have people we know who had very interesting visitors when they left church and they were relaxing in their yard. Somebody came and just picked them, and that was the end of them. 10 hours later, they were in the United States. So Cristiano can go ahead and think that that's going to give a cover to him. It's not going to happen.
Okay, this is something very vital, which is the last thing we're going to be talking about tonight. The president will be enforcing on this discussion that has to do with the draft on Thursday and other special announcements, which I believe it is left for his office to give to the public. It is about the draft, the reconstitution and repositioning of the Ambazonian restoration forces that have been so punctured by the enemies from within and from without. We have Insubu that was targeted and finally killed, and the Bui warriors were in despair, and now they're reconstituting. We just drafted Bui. It was impressive, owing to the fact that it's a county that has been so divided. But the actions were so impressive, what we saw and what was coming in from the ground. Right now, I want to refresh the minds and memories of Ambazonians as we come up to talk about this framework that is the working framework of the president of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. But before that, let us look at the Bui that has been fought by the disunity warriors, that has been fought aggressively by Cho Ayaba, that Tanganji has also fought, that Buba is coming to attack, and that coup plotters have fought, and that La République du Cameroun has been fighting. Let's look at these images again, enjoy them for a little minute, and then we'll come to conclude this program. Stay tuned.
Fellow Ambazonians, these are the Bui warriors under Major General Tokandu. You are going to see them march past here. So they say they are ready to take back our land. That is Ambazonia from the terrorist government of Yaoundé. They are here in their numbers, beginning with their colonels, captains, and their commanders. So you can see the procession. You can see the procession. They say they are ready to take back their land. That's Ambazonia, from the terrorist military of La République. And they are calling on our people, both at home and in diaspora, to help them as their draft is coming up any day from today, so that they can add more material in order to put down La République terrorists based in Bui County. Thank you all. Soldiers! 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 Yes, now we're picking them this Bui warriors. Bui warriors, now not them this. Then say them be ready. Say we be ready too for contribute money for that their draft, so that made them add the material when they get them for hand. Because he say made them off La République for land. and they promise all una say them go be happy for see all una back for homeland, so all una go stand one place, enjoy the resources where God don't give them for we land. Soldiers! So my dear people them for Ambazonia, most especially those of you for Bui County, now the Bui warriors them this under Major General Tokandu. As you can hear them sing, they are not afraid to die. So as we are saying, we all have drafted with our lives, and we are calling on all of you, both sons and daughters, parents of Bui County. Why not we thank you all, and we equally send words of thanks to the interim government for their endless support they have been giving to these soldiers. The interim government.
So that is Bui for us. Where I wanted us to get is this aspect. This is one of the strongest statements. It sounds so simple that you can run over it without noticing. They said, we have drafted our lives, Dr. Mungwa. They said, we have drafted our lives. And we're calling you to just draft whatever you have. And then I begin to ask myself, perhaps you have drafted $1,000 US. Congratulations to you. Perhaps you have drafted $10,000 US. Congratulations to you. Perhaps 25,000. How many lives can you buy with that amount of money? Dr. Mungwa, please talk to us.
Yeah, good. That's the question that we should place in front of Ambazonians who really want freedom. How much can you place against life? These are young men who probably do not have even a tenth of the privileges that some of us have in the diaspora. And at the same time, you have very irresponsible people who are saying that, no, cut off from the diaspora. What is the intent of cutting us from the diaspora if the idea is not to suffocate these young men who have put so much into this struggle? It is not only a tragedy, but it is complete irresponsibility of whoever thinks that you can cut off the relationship between the diaspora and our ground forces. We are here on two accounts. The first account is to provide the support that they need, and the second account is to be the interlocutor between the Ambazonian government and the international community, because there's no way we are going to do this work without the assistance of the international community. And if they think that Ground Zero will be in charge, who will be their support? Who will be their witness? When we sit down with La Republique to say, these are the conditions for us to live from now to the end of time, who will be the witness? Is it going to be another 1961 fiasco that took place in between Foncha and Ahijo in Fumban? Do they want to repeat the same errors of the past? And this is where I make my pitch. There is no way that we can go back and repeat the same things that happened in the past. Yes, the first time of making a mistake is we can forgive you. But if you make it the second time, then you are very, very stupid. We don't want to follow stupid leaders. We don't want to follow leaders with no vision. We don't want to follow people like Chris Anu, who think that everything has to end up in his pocket. We cannot do that. And I'm happy that Ambazonians are listening. And at least Chris Anu should understand that if he has to talk to Ambazonians, he has to tell them the truth. You don't go on television or to some media and say, oh, we are taking the fight to Yaoundé. You are taking the fight to Yaoundé with what resources? What resources do you have to take this fight to Yaoundé? And how are you going to justify it? This is somebody who has never, ever paid for the draft, but you want to take the fight to Yaoundé. You think this is a leader? A leader with no strategy. Do you know the resources? We in the interim government are composed of project managers. We know exactly what it takes. We know the resources. We know the timeline. We know the quality of service. We understand how materials get supply chain. Sorry. We understand supply chain. Does he understand any of these elements to be able to stand here without ever contributing to the struggle, to say that we are going to take the fight to Yaoundé? Does he know that Yaoundé is about 300-400 miles away? How is it going to navigate 400 miles? With what? I hope he is going to come on his television and explain to the Amazonian people that schedule, that program management cycle, how he is going to acquire the resources, acquire the manpower, and be able to walk to Yaoundé. This guy is a dreamer, or he's just somebody who has lost his mind. And I think it's a combination of both. Over to you.
You see, I just like what you said there, Dr. Mungwa, and that's where we are drifting towards the closure of tonight's discussion. It's always impressive when we come to talk to you and you crack down these things and explain them the way you do. And these are pertinent issues that we want to raise or bring or highlight to the minds of Ambazonians, so they do not just listen to the information, but they get to understand it. We are talking about a Bui County, and of course, those of you who pledged, make sure, like the president said, endeavor to redeem your pledges. It's very important that you redeem your pledges. And congratulations to all draftees. There are individuals who are drafting for every county. You know, the draft is not a tribalistic endeavor. It's something that we are all drafting. Congratulations. This weekend, we will be drafting for Meme County. And Thursday, we'll focus the discussion on Meme and the UN General Assembly. That's the duty that we have as a television to make sure that it happens. But Dr. Mungwa, again, I just would like to get on over and over again, because it's never satisfactory to end and to stop when the war is still ongoing. On and on again, Ambazonians sometimes will want to be given much reasons why they have to keep on drafting. Like I just showed you, not just past glory. This is ongoing. These are Amazonian restoration forces that are being rehabilitated, enhanced, should I say re-enhanced, empowered daily by stakeholders.
Let me say this to you. One of the greatest achievements of Dr. Sako as Commander-in-Chief is that he's been able to disrupt and degrade La République du Cameroon battlefield advantage. You have to get this very clear. This statement is impregnated with a lot of stuff behind it. He has been able to disrupt and degrade La République battlefield advantage. They thought they were going to have a walk in the park. But what has happened to them? We have degraded them and we have eliminated them. And that is the strength of the Sako government. We understand a lot of factors that La République is not aware of, whether it's supply chain. We understand the vulnerabilities that La République soldiers have, and we have capitalized on those vulnerabilities. I'm not here to identify them or to itemize them. They have a lot of vulnerabilities, and that is what we have, capitalized on. And that's why they are going nowhere. So I want to let Ambazonians know this. It is not an idle position to be commander-in-chief. And thank God we had the person who had that strategic reasoning to put it into place. From Lava Storm 1 through Lava Storm 3. That was the intent. And that was the key to the success in the field. Over to you.
Yes, I'm just getting information that John Ngyawan has released a message insulting the government. Perhaps that is
I already heard it. Yes.
Yes, and you helped to enforce that. So you see, Dr. Mungwa, we've come far. You have tackled a lot of topical issues in an impressive way. I must say that Amazonians listening to you now, those watching on Facebook, are excited about it. Remember, there's a town hall with the president. The president corrected it and said the town hall starts at exactly, the president actually says it's at 9 p.m., which is good. And we will be coming live by 7 p.m., 7 to 8, right on to 9, to move into the program with the president. And we will definitely broadcast it live on ABC, but not on Facebook and on YouTube until we have at least 300 persons or 500, why not 1,000 on the Zoom link listening to what the president has to say. So billboards and flyers will go out from tonight. We're making sure that everyone become a part of this
I think I have to make a
discussion.
correction there. When you see 200 people on Zoom, it is not 200 people. You should multiply that by at least 3, because you cannot have 2 pieces of equipment in the same room. There will be going to be a lot of interference. So when you have people coming on Zoom, one person actually links, everybody has to shut down. So I think this is some sort of a misinformation, that when they say, when you see 200, you say, oh, because no. There are more, because we have experienced that.
Agree with that.
So
I
you
agree
have
with
to
you on that. I agree with you on that at least 100%. First of all, no matter what is happening on the Zoom, President Sako, in every meeting that he is on Zoom, he has the highest numbers in the struggle for at least 4 months now. Even those who did impeachment in the Zoom with Ano, or purported impeachment, have been unable to raise up onto 120 people. But in almost every draft, we're getting at least 150 people coming, even to the smallest counties, at least 150 people coming on the draft alone. And those who cannot, because I have a lot of mothers calling me to help me to tell them how they can go about it. They do not even have Zoom, and they don't even know how to go about it. Yes, Dr. Mungwa, it's been a wonderful evening with you. It's at least 11 p.m. Amber time, and we have exhaustively spoken to our people. I'd like you to give a closing remark as we round off this program. Thank you.
Thank you, Paddy. I'm so pleased, as always, to come to ABC and talk to Ambazonians on behalf of the interim government. I'm also particularly happy to say that I think your programs have become hitch-free, and I'm very happy that the connectivity is better and the quality is better. I hope you continue in that direction. Fellow Ambazonians, fellow ARFs, you understand the place that you have in the heart of the interim government. We are the same people. We are fighting the same war. We are not here to let you down. If anybody thinks by cutting us off and going solo at the home front is little like taking your feeding bottle from your mother and throwing it into the bush. No matter how active or how strong you are at that time, it is impossible for you to survive until you get to a point where you can sit next to your parents as an independent person. This is exactly the role we are playing here. We are almost like our parents. Remember, we are all connected genetically. We come from the same part of the world, and we are fighting the same fight because we have family members, we have homes, we have investments at the home front, not La République du Cameroon. So when we sit here and we talk to you, we are talking to you from the heart, and we are very, very dedicated to this war. And we believe in our Commander-in-Chief, Dr. Samuel Ikonesako. So please stay safe and make sure that the ARFs, we make sure we treat the population fairly, because it is the same people that have to provide all the food and the support for us to go to prayer. Thank you and good night.
– 24 лютого. Цей день запам'ятає, напевно, кожен українець. Коли ми всі підскочили зі свого ліжка під слова «Прокидайся», почалася війна. Хтось прокинувся під звуки пострілів та вибухів. День, який ми планували провести, як завжди, на роботі, в школі, в дитячих садочках з друзями, перетворився на постійний страх, перебування в укриттях, біль та постійні сирени. Сьогодні 27 лютого, зараз 1 година. Ми вже встигли відвідати укриття о 7 годині ранку, та, на щастя, незабаром повернулися додому. Я навіть встигла нафарбуватися та привести себе в порядок вперше за ці страшні 4 дні, щоб записати цей відеосюжет. Зараз в Запоріжжі спокійно, всі сидять в своїх домівках. Доброго вечора, якщо його ще можливо назвати добрим. Сьогодні вже 28 лютого, ми зараз вдома, але ми вже втомилися рахувати, скільки разів ми бігали в укриття. Я хочу сказати, що нам дуже страшно. І я не розумію однієї речі, в чому винні мирні люди, чому діти повинні це бачити, і чому...
When you love for fair, who can be tavi? I sweet him love for fair, I'm kept kisavi. Kinjoki bombena, I love you. I've been quarantine, I love you. God, when you love for fair, but then I come. I give very tongue, ben I jim yelena. I tell very tongue, ben I jim yelena. I tell very tongue, ben I jim yelena. You want very tongue, ben I jim yelena. Kadam, I jim in don. Some of them shy, young doggo. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Whoa, yo, 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 yo. Yeah, yeah.
Come look to me, I'm the one for them, Kera Vitavi. Then Psyche Tomki Kumbankarim Yobutanin. Fukoni Yotango, Mongbankavi. We Moron Chengumba, we Mobuno Sotanin. We Chengrando, Chengtaku, Rana Vilami. So we Yola Yotango. Yembo purinyo yo jama yo wa yembo shushe yo jako yo wa yo bano de yo wonge yembo wil bono ben ko yo e yembo wan bon to ben ko yo wa yo bano de yo wonge yo bano bo yo ben na wera lo tum yo do wan bona yembo shushe yo de wan bona yembo purinyo yo do wan bona.
Tumchere wakuma shusha mayo ven koi mina yuun bachanga ve yo funky fa ave yo tanki fa ve the one gonso ave yo yulambara am oga ajishiman ave kuti karaman sumnen nam gor gonso len aw nyama mo shiban ven koti wi yo vasan wachanga ji ven koti wi yo vasan wayo woni sa ben yake bena ku wait for na never wonge be me wong so ven lokati la we license vola wong so ji we load for me loud license for
Ayenali, ibidama, jayenali, ibidama. Wo masaluka takusika tala do.
Ibuye once away. Ibuye once away. Belum malum kir benna yo wiro. We go back up and oh, are you wait for day?
Show man, yemolan tum yo shushe witia. Burinya yo we the one to Ita tapomba mojem dula je kubi jomdi tanto jo fongo shuo me waram gongo. Msawi yele guno yo. Janga bi me wono ye bi me la.
Now we be the boys from South. That's what I'm saying.
a full-time student, I use it for school.